John, you got me?
We're back, baby.
All right, we're back, baby. This is my first day with my Wi-Fi extender, so some of the folks out there have noticed I've had some technical difficulties as I'm working from home, and the Wi-Fi has not been super robust. And so Hosea Botley, actually from Aversal Global Relocations or International Freight Forwarder out of Seattle, great company. But anyway, Hosea sent me a Wi-Fi extender, which was super generous, right? And this is day one of using it, and we're seeing how it goes.
I'm your beta, baby. I'm your beta.
That's it, John. And so if I dip out, you now become the de facto host, and you can say whatever you want.
All right. Free moving services, free freight forwarding for everybody.
Yeah, there you go. Free
we'll pay you. We'll pay you. How's that?
It'll be like oil futures.
Yeah, exactly. I'll pay you to storage it. Yeah, exactly.
So, John, really quick for everybody out there, where are you sitting right now today?
I am in Brentwood, Tennessee, Ben, which is about 8 nautical miles from downtown Nashville. It's actually one of the first suburban communities that got built out here in the 50s and 60s. But prior to that, it was horse country.
So you say nautical miles. Do you boat into town?
I could. No, it's a drive up 65. So maybe it's land miles, but I was being cute.
No. I like cute. I'm also being cute right now. If nobody noticed.
Yeah, maybe talk, right? Yeah.
All right. So everybody, we got folks on LinkedIn watching us. It looks like they're with us right now. So go ahead and please, if you watch the show, drop a name. Let me know where you're coming from in the world. Shout out your company. We will go through. We will read all your comments and questions, and give shout outs to everybody. If you're watching on Facebook, and I see Facebook people coming in now, do the same thing. We'll start giving some shout outs. Let's see, we got a couple people checking in with us here. Jamie Massler, hey Ben and John, cheers from very sunny Mississippi. The running joke is Jamie always gives us the weather, and we appreciate it. Jamie, I see you on Facebook now. You switched, man. That's cool. It's a different experience. I appreciate that. Also, if you're not getting the LinkedIn Live push notifications, go to facebook.com/loveandrelo, love and relo spelled out, and subscribe, follow, and get notifications there, and you will always get the push notifications. Christy Saluga, happy Friday from Pittsburgh. Hey, Christy.
Go Steelers.
Yep.
But they're not playing. That's all right.
And I think Christy, are you a Ravens fan? Check me on that, but I think she might actually be a Ravens fan, Steeler country. But you know who is a Steeler fan? Jamie Massler, actually. Let's see. Jason Rollins, hey Ben and John, happy Friday from Foxborough, Mass. Not sunny. I love it. We got a few folks here. I'm going to give some shout outs real quick before we hop into the meat of the conversation. Sylvia Ehrlich, hi John.
Hey, there's my girl.
She just totally ignored me, but that's cool, Sylvia.
¿Cómo se va?
Ed Cohen, hello John and Ben from Ed in San Diego. Cheers and good health. Dan O'Sullivan, hi Ben and John. Michael Billadu, hi John and Ben. It's been a long time. Do you still have your band? Let's hop right into that. Do you still have your band?
Of course we do. So we have we were doing 2 ERC events a year, spring and fall. Obviously, we know that spring compressed into a new thing, so that event got killed. And we're still planning for the fall event. We've got a beautiful theater on hold. October 29th is the date. I've also got some legends of the relocation industry that sit in with the band. John D'Ambrosio from At Properties, Melissa Singer-Reed comes in from Plains, who just kicks tail on vocals. Man, she sings Journey like nobody I've known. And then I bring in a bunch of my rock star buddies in the band to make me look good, and we combine them with the Relo folks, and a splendid time is had by all. We've been doing the party for 20 years.
Wow.
No arrests, no injuries. It's been a beautiful thing. My dear friend TJ at Oakwood got us started 20 years ago.
That's incredible. Did you guys play when it was the Oakwood parties from back in the day?
Yeah.
Was that how it started?
We were just the band, and then Oakwood decided not to do it and turned it over to me. And I reached out to a bunch of sponsors, Freddie Paxton, who's a dear friend, and our friends at Arpin, and Gavin James from Nomad, and John Moriali. Jr. from Morreale Residential, Scott Carroll at Odyssey. We Altair just joined us as a sponsor, and also John D'Ambrosio's wife Sharon at Relo Orientations Asia. So we got a really cool group of sponsors. Everybody chips in. We basically throw $100,000 party, and everybody just chips in a little bit, and it's wonderful. I love doing it and look forward to it, and hope and pray we can pull off October.
It really is a great event, and it's a tough ticket. It's a tough ticket to get because it's exclusive. So you got to know somebody, got to know one of the sponsors. But it's always a great time. It's always an open bar. The band's great. Usually at like the House of Blues or something like that, right?
Hard Rock.
Hard Rock.
You got a pass for life. So you got a VIP pass. I got one with your name on it. So
Mama, I made it.
Yeah.
That way I don't gotta like guilt. I don't gotta guilt one of my partners into give me a ticket that somebody didn't show up for.
But our band plays literally all over the world. We do real estate events. We do technology companies. We do association events. The Berkshire Hathaway deal was just here. We did something, and the Realty Alliance came to town. We put on shows, so it's a lot of fun. You're jammed up again, baby. Ben's extender is not working, ladies and gentlemen, and I've been asked to be the temporary host when when he's not talking. Let's hope he connects again. Can I see live comments? There we go. Ben, we're waiting for you, baby.
Literally stood outside the.
There you are. Oops.
I'm back.
Extender.
I'm back. Ben's extender is not working. Oh god, that's a rumor I'm gonna have to live down for a long time. I've actually, I was just saying, I've actually stood outside that Thursday Night Live party scalping tickets before. I'd be like, anybody got a ticket? Anybody got a ticket? Anybody got a ticket? But no,
anybody needs one, just let me know and I'll figure you out somehow.
It's awesome. Let's go through here. We got a ton of people here.
Cheating.
Yep. Here we'll go. We'll check in. There's Dan Keating. Christy admits that she's a Ravens fan on the low, but Jamie's got your back. You are a Steeler fan there, John? Then I should.
No, when I worked for Home Equity, I was an account executive and I had all the Pittsburgh accounts. So I spent a ton of time there with 5 or 6 of the companies that were moving, Westinghouse and PPG and U.S. Steel and Carnegie Mellon. So I lived in Pittsburgh almost for 3-4 years of my life. So I love it.
Wow. And then cheers to Florida, my Floridians. I'm tropical today, so I'm in Florida with you. We got the backdrop here. We're having a lot of fun with people checking in right now. Hey, if you're watching this right now, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Hit the heart button. Hit the celebration button. That lets people know that we're watching right now. And I appreciate it. It always makes me feel good, too. So thank you so much for that. Going through the comments before we get started here. Gosh, Brian Rothschild, hello, gentlemen. Sean Wood, hello from GAC in Dubai. Chris Roberts, happy Friday from Pittsburgh. Checking in. Lynn Tamarchio, Ola Relo, remote in Emeryville, California. Awesome. Patrice, TGIF from Portland, Oregon. Sylvia Ehrlich, hi Ben. Thank you, Sylvia. I appreciate you. And John, I will always beg to be acknowledged. Thank you so much. Nice
Sylvia is a sucker for a guy in a suit. She's always well dressed and beautifully coiffured, so she appreciates you in that regard.
I met Sylvia early in my career up in it was at an MSI event in Chatham Boss, I think, up in Massachusetts. Her and her lovely daughter, and wonderful people. Bud Cole, hello Ben and John. Bud from Walla Walla, love the hat. Thank you, sir. Tim Quirk, happy Friday, gents. This Friday thing is going to catch. Dan O'Sullivan, exciting topic for discussion. We'd love to hear your view on this lump sum self-serve digital services. You know what? Let's just take that as a jumping off point. Thank you, Dan. So that is on the docket here.
Right.
So we are going to talk a little bit about some lump sum stuff. And I think, you know what? Let's just hop into it. Let's hop right into the meat here. let's talk about the tools and the resources that we're seeing that are needed by people today, right? We've seen this huge lump sum wave of demand, right, and adoption for lump sum. We could debate this all day long whether or not we should be heading that way or not. But putting that debate aside right now, talking about some of the services, John, if you could weigh in on some of the services and products that you're seeing pop up there that are meeting unmet needs in transferees with lump sum programs. Could you just kind of riff on that?
You bet. Well, first of all, I think the name lump sum is got to go. Sounds like a oatmeal or something. It's kind of like the old trailing spouse. Relocation counselors say, "Well, do you have a trailing?" Those are really insensitive and out of touch terms. So we've at OK Move Me we've gotten rid of the word lump sum and we're calling it TDM, transferee designed and managed moves, because the fundamental change that's going on here, and I knew this back in 1980 when I got into relocation, but it just took a while for me to realize every transferee is actually a consumer first and a transferee second. And in the old days, in my corporate relocation days, I and my family moved 7 times. I was, the cobbler's son that didn't have shoes with a relo companies that often had benefits that, stacked up to their clients, didn't necessarily win the SHRM award, for quality of a relo program. But
right.
But the point is that in the old days, the control of the money and the control of the policy was all with the company. And the relo company was the administrator of that process, in addition to imparting knowledge and bringing goods and services over. Now the control has shifted away from the corporation to the transferee. They're the ones who are given a benefit allowance, if you will, for a transferee designed and managed move. And they're the consumer now. They're deciding. And there may be some variances in terms of household goods suppliers, or if a company has a mortgage deal with a direct bill or whatever. But for the most part, transferees are consumers. And as a result, there really needed to be something in the marketplace that addresses that reality, that they're looking at this market basket of goods and services that they must buy to move their family, and there's got to be a resource to be able to do it. So,
I want to hop in here before you get into how that problem's being solved. Right, this shifting towards the transferee being the consumer, I think, was enhanced or exacerbated or whatever you want to call it with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, where now the transferee is paying the taxes on the cost of services. So a lot of times the transferee didn't even know how much the move cost or the other aspects of cost of a relocation. But now they're getting it, it's hitting their W-2, and at the end of the year, like, crap, I got to pay 35% tax on whatever that was, and I didn't have any decision-making power in that process. I would have done it a lot cheaper than that, they would have said, right? So I think that's one of the reasons we find ourselves here as well.
Totally. And it's think of other businesses where, I'm sure all of us here in the States, at least, have seen these Liberty Mutual commercials with the dude who plays the detective who has the emu with him, and he says, "Hey, just pay for what you really need." And that's like, well, what does that mean? And when you peel back the onion, you realize that it's a consumer controlled insurance experience, where I decide my deductible and I decide whether I need a rider for jewelry or whatever to determine my thing, as opposed to just give me the best insurance I can find. And you're right, Ben, when you're picking up the tab, you start to ask some questions that you would have never, ever asked before.
Well, and now I'm going to challenge this a little bit, if you don't mind, because I'm a consumer, right?
Yeah.
I wear my consumer. This is my consumer hat right now. I wear my consumer hat from time to time, especially as a fairly new homeowner, right? Buying home services for the first time. I've found that I don't know what I need. I think I know what I need. I need a guy to paint the inside of my house. How hard can it be? And then I chisel him down to half what he initially quoted me, and I'll be honest with you, the work was subpar, And so what happens when transferees who have now controlled the purse strings and have a financial incentive to negotiate the rate as low as possible? What happens when they kind of do themselves a disservice?
Yeah. Well, number one, trust is a very difficult thing to impart on a web, and on a virtual transaction. And this is where companies like Angie's List, for instance, and Home Advisor, I can't remember the name of the neighborhood websites, Nextdoor.
Yeah.
And because it goes beyond a Yelp review, you can buy a Yelp review. You can, it's kind of like, I'm in the music business, and artists don't understand that you could go to a site and you can buy, 1 million YouTube views for your latest video. And those are robots. They're not real people.
I'm finding that now that I'm posting YouTube stuff, I get people to say, I can give you 1 million subscribers. Here's how much it costs. Or if you watch the $1 Billion Bully about Yelp, you can actually go on to Craigslist and buy Yelp influencers 5-star reviews for $20 a piece. So you're right.
Trust is really important. And I'll tell you, out of my career in relocation, one of the jobs that I trusted the most and benefited from was the relocation director. So when I moved into Las Colinas, Texas for the first time, or when we moved to DC in '98, the moving truck was leaving. My son slipped on his skateboard and broke his wrist. And we needed to find it. I mean, we were living there 15 minutes. The moving truck had just left.
Oh my gosh.
And my wife, who's a nurse, who even worked in orthopedics, we were like, so who did we call? We called the agent that sold us the house. And she and the relo director got on the phone and did a 3-way with us and said, you're going to go to Suburban Hospital right up here on Old Georgetown Pike, and you're going to go see Dr. Cross. And sure enough, we followed their advice because we didn't know what to do. So you got to replace that trusted, impartial advisor with some resources for you to choose from. Number two, you got to use your internal BS detector, because our grandmas all taught us if something's too good to be true, it really is. And there's certain real estate brokers, for instance, that offer a discounted commission that's full service. And then you look at their list and you see, that's not full service. What do you mean I have to buy a virtual tour? What do you mean I have to pay for a CMA or whatever the example is? So trust is so important, following your instincts. And then the last part is that I've been doing this a long time, since 1980. And everybody's talked about, well, we're going to remove the stress of relocation. We're going to make it painless. Well, that's a bunch of bull. You're not going to be able to take the human displacement problem away. But there are a number of things you can do to alleviate the stress and the decision making, and to your exact point, Ben, the bad decision making, to make the move as stress free as possible. That's what the world we got to get.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that. How do we, in practical terms, remove some of that stress and some of that risk from the transferees' buying decisions, right? Because again, I don't necessarily trust transferees to act in their own best interest.
Yeah.
How do we remove that? How do we remove that risk?
You become your own purchasing agent, right? And so, number one, you check a firm out. Number two, you look for references, or at least some point of reference to see, hey, are these guys full of nonsense, or are they really a genuine vendor? You could also get in trouble by buying a brand name and being dissatisfied. I can't tell you how many times I've had a Hertz rental from one of the biggest companies in the world, and I hated everything about it. The car smelled like cigarette smoke, and I rented full size, and they gave me an intermediate. So you can't always be fooled by brand names too.
Yeah, and that's something that I see from time to time, especially with moving, right? Because this is really a problem in the moving industry, because there are so many online moving brokers popping up, and just it's almost predatory the way that they go after me. As soon as you put moving into a Google search bar, you're going to get phone calls from all sorts of people, lowballing you and just throwing numbers at you and trying to get you to saying if you give me your credit card now, I'll take $500 off the transaction, and it's like, I can move you to California for $1,000, and people hear that and they're like, what, my internal BS detector's going off.
Boom.
But there's a chance it's true. There's a chance it's not. I know if I go somewhere else, I'm going to pay more. But there's a chance I pay less. I'll take the chance. That's what I see. That's the decision-making process that people say, well, I think this guy's probably full of it. But worst case, he's charging me what the other guy's going to charge me. Best case, he actually honors the price, and I actually get to California for $1,000. So, and that's and that's like the the flawed decision making that I'm seeing on a daily basis with our consumer sales team that's out there in the marketplace and going to transfers. I mean, gosh, I consider myself a pretty savvy buyer. I consider myself a pretty shrewd negotiator. I consider myself a pretty technologically savvy person that knows how to use review websites and whatnot. But I tell you what, I've hired landscapers that were terrible. I've hired painters that were terrible. I've hired board replacement people and things. I mean, all sorts. Every home services that I've hired, I probably kind of went on the cheaper side, and I got a pretty subpar, experience. And I just, as someone who is a service provider in this industry who sells a higher level of service, I'm concerned about.
Sure.
I guess I'm concerned about my viability and my ability to articulate my value proposition to consumers.
Well, or to your point, Ben, these are babes in the woods,
Yes.
proverbially speaking, who may be really good at their business job, but when it comes to being the purchasing agent for their relocation. My grandfathers were both in the real estate business. In fact, my mom's dad had a SRA appraiser designation from the 1930s,
Wow.
So they go back to relocation, a long time. And my grandfather had he had all these little sayings in his office up against the wall. And one of them was, you don't get what you don't pay for. Or no, what's the old expression? You get what you pay for, and you don't get what you don't pay for. So if you buy the cheap guy, you get what you pay for, and you don't get what you don't pay for means, when I moved to Nashville, we grew one of my cars. We moved out here, and sure, I cheaped out. I went on the internet. Everybody wanted $700 to move the car, and I chose a guy that was $375. And I called him, and he said, "That's the full price. We're good." Sure enough, this Russian dude shows up with a car carrier and wants another $200 in cash in order for me to give him the car. And I'm like, "No, that's not the deal that I had with so and so in Staten Island that I talked to." He said, "Well, I don't know anything about it. I'm told if I deliver the car, I get an extra $200 cash, and I'm not taking a credit card." And then I call the guy, and his voicemail's full, and I'm in this dead end trap. Well, sure enough, I gave the guy the $200 so I could get my car, and it cost $675 or whatever, just like the full price guy did. So
yes, it did, and they brought you right back to what you would have paid anyway. But they got you on the hook, and moving companies do this all the time. And it is a Russian guy or South American guys or whatever that show up because and it's nothing against them. It's nothing against them. It's just they're looking, they're getting into the industry, and that's how they got into the industry, and that's the kinds of companies that they find themselves aligned with because they don't know better.
And so that's why you need a trusted source to help you. And so the business that we built, and we're not here to talk about a commercial, but that's what OK Move Me is all about. We're the consumer's friend for whether you're a college kid, leaving the dorm, or whether you're downsizing or with moving internationally, or you just had a second kid, you need to get to a bigger house. We're, and by the way, they're military relocations and corporate relocations and new hires that fit in because all transferees are consumers. That's the bottom line.
So John, you had a great idea for this show, and I'm going to. So everybody that's listening right now, I want you to listen up, okay? I want you to know we're going to do a poll. We're going to try this right now, okay? We're going to do an audience poll, all right? So John had this phenomenal idea, and we're going to do an audience poll. So I need you to all participate in the comments. I got 25 people, I think, on LinkedIn right now, about 10 on Facebook or whatever. I want to see in the comments. Is remote work going to make a big dent in moves? And we're going to put some parameters around this. We're going to define what that means, right? And I want everybody to respond with a percentage. Okay? I want everybody to respond with a percentage, a number between 1 and 100 of what percent within, let's say, 1 year, what percent increase will there be in work from home? Or decrease in going to work, however you want to look at it, right? Will it be 10%? Will it be 20%? Will it be 30%? And you can look at it. You can look at it in terms of part-time remote work as well. Well, actually, let's define this, John. Do you want to include part-time remote work where you go in for 2 days a week?
Sure.
Or do you want to just say full time? Okay. So what percentage of your time is going to be remote work in the future, a year from now? I'd love to see a percentage in the comments. And we're going to. I'm a big fan. There was a Malcolm Gladwell book out there called I think it was called What the Dog Saw, and it's about thin slicing. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's basically what you can do is if you ask somebody show a picture of a cow, and you say what does this cow weigh? You could be off by thousands of pounds because you're not a cow weight expert. But if I show this picture of a cow to 1,000 people, I say, what does this cow weigh? The average is usually pretty correct.
Malcolm's brilliant.
Isn't he brilliant?
Tipping Point, one of my favorite books. Yeah, good stuff.
Incredible. So we're going to do a quick little social experiment with this, okay? What percentage is remote work going to make, what percentage of a dent is remote work going to make 1 year from today? Leave it in the comments, please. Everybody participate. Everybody's got a voice. There's 25 of you. I can do a quick audit. I'm that smart. So make sure everybody participates here, okay? No silent lurkers here. I want everybody to participate. And then we'll go back and we'll kind of look at it. Oh, I'm seeing the numbers coming in right now. Oh, this is fun. This is great. See, people are actually participating. This show gets so much better when people participate.
Absolutely.
Okay? There's one takeaway from Love and Relo.
It's a sing-along. It's a sing-along at the campfire with Uncle Ben. I love it.
Hey, do not tempt me into getting you to get that guitar off the wall. Okay?
Oh, yeah?
Yes. I've had multiple guests talk about how they sing or they play or they whatever, and none of them have actually played. Go for it.
We got what? The Relocation Blues, right?
Oh, please.
Well, my lump sum is gone. I'm no more money to spend. My wife's pissed. My kids are leaving house. I got the relocation blues. Right down into my shoes. Dan Katie knows he's been around a long time. He's seen everybody give him a line because, oh, Danny, you've got the relocation blues. That wasn't very good.
Fantastic. Hey, if you're watching out there, I wanted to see those hand claps. That's fantastic. John, that was fantastic.
My kids are pissed. They want to leave, you know?
Oh, my gosh. That is brilliant. Oh, my gosh.
But next time, if we ever do this again, I'll prepare something.
Oh, my gosh. That was brilliant. You're out there and yeah, people are saying, go John, sang it. Give me some Stevie Ray. We're getting requests over here. Oh, this is phenomenal. Oh, this is so fantastic, John.
I had to give you a shout out. We go back way too long.
Oh, that is beautiful. Ed Cohen says Relocation Blues, yay. Ben has a new pre-show music. I know, tell me about it. I need a theme song. By the way, John.
I could do that for you. Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll work on a Love and Relo thing. Yeah.
And I love the blues angle too. Love it.
I got like 3 Grammy-winning musicians on my label. I just pay them $50 and they'll write a song. You know?
Oh my gosh.
I'll cover that. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Hey, thank you. I'm so struck by the generosity of the community in Love and Relo, by the way.
That's what Relo is, man.
Isn't it wonderful? I mean, that's the whole reason I did this show is because I go to the conferences, I go to your Thursday Night Live party, I go to all these events, and I have these amazing, I remember sitting at the Thursday Night Live party in Atlanta. I wasn't drinking, so I was having like these very lucid conversations with people that were so deep. I was talking to Dano McCoy, and I was talking to William Wiggins, and I was talking to Jose Abatley, and I was talking to, Meg McLaughlin. I remember all the people I was talking to because I wasn't drinking. But I was having these amazing conversations, and that's like the genesis of why we're here right now, to be able to form this kind of community. I love it.
It's, since the first day I got into relocation, which was a long, long time ago, it's 40 years ago, kids. Seriously, that I walked into Merrill Lynch Relocation and got a job in the marketing department. And that's what struck me about this industry way, way, way back then. It was very community-oriented, competitors working together to serve common clients. You may have heard the term co-opetition years ago. When we invented outsourcing, I see a number of people on this call. I know I keep on picking on Dan Keating, but I know he was one of the executives that was the icebreaker of outsourcing, getting corporations to take the in-house programs in. And it was all about community and saying, what do you need and how do we get it? And I got a vendor in San Diego who's going to do this for you, or whatever the fill-in. I love this business, and it's a lot like the music business, by the way. There's a community working together and songwriters that collaborate, even though they're technically competitors, or they're fighting for the same dollar for people to go to a show. So it's a beautiful business, man, and it's been very, very good to me and my family, and I'm incredibly grateful to the guy that got me into the business a long time ago. Because all these
who was that? Who was that? Give him a shout out. Who was the guy that got you in the business a long time ago?
Well, believe it or not, the guy's name is Jim Messia. He's still alive. He ran a title agency in White Plains, New York, and
that's where I grew up, by the way, White Plains, New York.
Kidding. Oh
yeah.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, I grew up in Mamaroneck, Ben, a couple towns over, right?
Awesome.
And so that was my first job when I flunked out of college to be music. I toured as a musician. I met the woman that became my wife, and she's like, "You're crazy. You got to get out of this business." And so I went to work for a company as a sales guy, and then he introduced me to a guy named Steve Gross at Merrill Lynch Relocation in White Plains, New York, at Corporate Park Drive. And Steve then introduced me to the marketing department, and that was my first job. And I don't know whether Jim Messia is still around. He's probably well into his 80s, but he was the guy that got me started, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I've had some awesome bosses and friends along the way. Ben, you're froze up again. Guys, I don't know whether I can entertain you with another song, but Ben's Wi-Fi extender is. Oh, he may be back.
Am I back? Well, back. I went to save you. You said I don't know if I can play another song. I went to click John play a verse of Reach in order to keep the people happy. Yeah.
Well, Dan, what we did was we had years ago in 1990 at Coldwell Banker, we took the whole office into a recording studio and recorded this song called Reach. Was a band called Orleans. Is you got to reach a little bit higher, and it was all about us exceeding our customers' expectations. And anybody in the company who wanted to come to the recording studio was able to do it. So that's what Dan's talking about. We had a blast, and had some guys from Billy Joel's band that came and sang with us. So it was fun.
Golly, that is amazing. I want to go ahead and I want to honor these people that have commented here. Yeah. This is what I've got here, and I might be missing some of them because I cut out and came back in. So, but Ed Cohen said 75 to 80%.
Yeah, that's high.
That's high. Jamie Master 40%. Prashant is 25%. Tim Quirk 100. Michael Billadu 40 to 50%. Flex time will go to 60%. Mary Smith, Mary says 30%. Marilyn Martin says 30%. Erica Herzog 50. Hosea Botley 35. Gary Sanders 25. What's that?
I'm so glad to hear. If that's Marilyn Martin, our old GE contact from Coldwell Banker, I love Marilyn.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, she's awesome. I'm so glad she's here.
See, Marilyn, give yourself a little hand clap there. Erica Herzog.
Business, man. She's genius.
I love it. Hosea Botley, 35%. Gary Sanders, 25%. Charles Beatty Jr., 40% flex time / full time. Jamie Rosal, 25%. Jason Exley, 20%. Patrice Kachulis, 35%. Brenda, 25%. Dan O'Sullivan, 5%. Interesting. Tamara Holt, 50%. So that's kind of interesting. I would love to go through here and actually add these up, and I may do this afterwards, add it up, divide it, and see what the average is, and then take a look back 12 months from now and see how close the average is to...
I mean, it feels instinctively somewhere in the 50-ish% range, which, depending on what you do, if you're a salesperson, you're not going to be able to do it, because we're still a face-to-face business, even if you have a mask on when you're doing your sales call.
Right.
I'm more interested in companies and, what kind of relocation volume. One of my business partners is a gal named Renita Charlin. If you guys don't know her, she's a very, very sharp, very tenured Relo executive. And she sat in on a conference call that had 6 or 7 corporate clients forecasting, what their numbers were going to look like, for 2020 and 2021. And it was pretty telling. I mean, I would say, consensus there was at least a 40-50% reduction in volume. and in some cases even higher.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because Gary Sanders, and thank you, Gary, for doing the math. Gary said there's 20 responses. The average is 41.4% with a median of 37.5%.
Even an English major can do numbers. That's good. Thank you, Gary.
Yep, I'm an English major. There you go.
All right.
Nice.
Good for you. Yeah, we're the few, we're the mighty, but we're strong.
I talk good. Anyway, Sylvia Ehrlich says Relo are great people. Heart. Jamie Massler loves two. He's picked up two key catchphrases: BS meter and co-opetition.
That's not mine. I lifted it, but it's a good word.
Sylvia Ehrlich, collaboration and partnership are key. Roy Ramirez is laughing. Hello from many moves in Broadview, Illinois. Marilyn Martin says, yes, it's me.
We love you, Marilyn. You're awesome.
Let's see. So Patrice asked a question. What is the baseline work from home prior to COVID? Need that number to know more future possibilities. I will tell you, Patrice, Elliott Scott HR hosted a webinar yesterday. They're a recruiting firm. Shout out to Danny Herskowitz out there if you're watching, who's a great recruiter for the mobility industry. But they hosted a webinar, and they actually gave that statistic. And I am going to see if I took a screenshot of it, because I was also thinking, what is the baseline to understand here?
One of the corollaries to that, Ben, is everybody's been watching the Zoom stock and how it's been, going through the roof, and any of the virtual stuff. And if work from home had that much of an impact, we would have seen, the Zooms and the Uber conferences and GoToMeeting. We would have seen their stocks go through the roof, 2 years ago. But because of today, because the volume is so high, it gives you a good indication of what the impact was then and what it is now.
Yeah, and I don't have that number. Maybe Elliot Scott can, maybe somebody can look it up while we're talking. But I think that's interesting. You're right. Reduction in volume equals more work from home, or maybe more work from home equals reduction in volume, says Ed Cohen. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's pontificate here on post-COVID, right? Because I think that's kind of where we're at now, right? We think we see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a question of, is it another train coming at us, or is it actually the light? But I don't know. We'll see. But we're kind of at the peak, we hope, and we hope there's only one peak and not two, because that is potential. So we're looking out post-COVID. What do you see post-COVID-19, John?
I still think it's the paint is really wet. The commercial interests and the capitalists in our country they've got some really, really loud voices. I mean, look at the governor in Georgia, what's going on with that dude Kemp. And, today they're opening up, hair salons and workout places, because the desire to make money seems like higher than the desire to protect our health as a society and as individuals. And that remains to be seen, because you're right. If this commercial push that we're seeing, and believe me, in Nashville, these guys, 40-50% of the revenues come out of tourism and convention stuff. And all the big, shows, the Country Music Hall of Fame shows and all that stuff. I honestly don't know. I don't think anybody does. I think they're BSing us if they can get a vision to say this is what the new normal is. Because I think the new normal is abnormal.
Or totally different than we've ever done it before,
yeah,
right?
It's September 11th. I can remember going to because ERC was like 2 weeks or something after September 11th, or 2 or 3 weeks, the one that was in Anaheim at the Disney property there. And I can remember going to that, and it was a ghost town, but the next ERC in May, we're back to normal, and everybody was high-fiving and doing business. I'd be really interested to see what everybody on the line thinks, but it's a sociological, medical, economic, political shitstorm. Excuse my language.
It's French Friday.
It's French Friday. Merde, I'll say, for our French friends that are on the phone. And I don't know. I'd be interested to see what other people are thinking.
Go ahead and chime in the comments. Let us know kind of what you're thinking the new normal looks like. I will recklessly speculate, since that is my specialty. I think
You're great.
I think that well, I could do this because I mean, when you're unofficial, right? When you're just kind of
Yeah.
bootlegging this thing, you can say whatever you want, right?
Yeah, whatever.
I'm not like the head of ERC. I don't have any obligations or responsibilities to any
I'm
constituents,
gonna
you
be
know.
very sure before the end of the year. Take
Yeah.
my advice on that. It's
So
gonna go away. Sorry, but that's the truth.
say that again because I missed it.
I'm half kidding, but not really. I think ERC is going to end up having to merge into another association like the SHRM or the compensation group. In fact, the new person they hired, as everybody probably knows, came out of SHRM.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I do hope to have Lynn on the program to talk a little bit about the vision.
She's got great credentials. I looked her up on LinkedIn. Very, very strong leader to take over there. And
yeah,
you know,
I do. You know, since we're going to talk about her and ERC and everything really quickly, you know, I do like the credentials. I do like the fact it's coming from Sherman. I've said this a bunch of times. It's like, you know, relocation people. You know, we've been convincing other relocation people that we should do relocation, and like obviously, you know, that's a pretty obvious thing to do. You know, we're all shouting at each other, "Hey, we need more relocation," you know, and we're like, "Yeah, we do," you know. But when I go to SHRM, to the national conference in SHRM, and I scan 3,000 badges in a 3-day period, so I talk to a lot of people. So many HR professionals have no idea what relocation is. It's something they try not to do. They told me that. You know, I said, "You ever relocate people?" They say, I hope not. I try not to." You know, and I'm like, "Well, that's a hell. Yeah, that's a hell of a talent strategy you got there, ma'am." And so, you know, so I'm talking to people. I realize that we're beating the drum in our own little drum circle, but we need to get out and go play our tune somewhere else because we need to go tell HR and we need to go out there to talent organizations and talent conferences and to benefits conferences and HR generalists and SHRM and all of these places and go talk to, you know, Disrupt HR and all these cool HR groups that are popping up left and right and start beating this drum out there about what relocation is and the value that it has strategically for talent programs. And I just hope that that's one of the messages that I keep saying, and I hope that people get it out there. You know, so I am hopeful that Lynn can kind of reach across the aisle to the partners over at SHRM and kind of cross-pollinate some ideas and some membership.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's going to be really important. I mean, it's kind of like the music business where artists were used to, you know, go to the recording studio, produce CDs, go on the road, sell CDs, right? This ecosystem was all set up, right? Now, if any of us wanted to write a song right now, I could pull up my Apple Logic. We could write a song. I could get it distributed on TuneCore, have it on iTunes by dinner time, right? I can't tour anymore, and people aren't buying CDs. Everybody's making money on Spotify streams, and the industry had to, the artists that I work with, they had to understand that your audience is now the internet. It's not the people sitting in seats, you know, in the arenas. And how do you reposition yourself? And the smart artists are getting involved in these other technology areas and understanding social media, for instance. Whereas before, they had to bother. And the same went with Relo. We were big and fat and well compensated enough. Fat is not a right term, because I could lose 15 pounds myself. So I'll be the first.
You got the COVID-19. You got to drop that COVID-19 once you emerge.
We were very rich and blessed industry.
Yes.
I was on the IBM account for almost 12 years in my corporate career, and the first year I was on, they moved 18,000 people, you know, and we were a split account when I was on Merrill Lynch, and Home Equity had the other half. But still, you know, it takes 10,000 families in one bite, and you know, it's gone. So now you have to realize what's, to your exact point, what's the collaboration? How can we get in with the compensation folks? How can the immigration people be when the H-1B visas are all cut off and you need these engineers to come in? How do we partner with other industries and allied circles to cooperate to serve the industry that we're here to serve?
Yeah, I see immigration growing. That aspect. I see tax as people take the business traveler problem more seriously. I see that being an area where there could be some growth. Obviously, in the lump sum tools, although I still think that, you know, there's a lot of maturity that needs to happen in that area. But I mean, there's definitely a need there for curated suppliers because, you know, Google. It's hard to compete with Google, but there's a lot of flaws in Google providers.
You have to do it. That's what Zillow Zillow was so brilliant when they started. They bought the first 4 pages of Zillow of Google, and humans are lazy. They don't go past the fold. And it's going to be really interesting to see, how all that shakes out.
And then travel. I see relocation may be declining, but travel and assignments and temporary assignments and temporary lodging, temp housing. Yeah. I could see that after we get safe again, as an alternative to relocation. Although some people. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I got another one for you. Mm-hmm. How many folks on the call are familiar with Open Door or Knock? Mm-hmm. These instant offer companies, Zillow Instant Offers, for instance. And I used to consult for Zillow as recently as a year ago. And I said, guys, I worked for the company that invented instant offers by mail, PHH Home Equity. They invented this whole thing. And instant offers today are no different. Plug in your address and Open Door gives you an offer. How many transferees will do that? Where they get the benefits of what a Relo program was, and they go consumer direct, to another resource.
We have some people chiming in here. Let's see here. Quinn Harker says Zoom has 300 million daily users.
There you go.
Sylvia Ehrlich said there is no new normal. It's too soon to figure it out. She also goes on to say, John, we were on a panel together in Anaheim.
Oh, yeah, we were, Sylvia.
Back post 9/11.
I remember the perfume you were wearing. Perfect.
Ed Cohen says the San Diego Convention Center has lost the SHRM conference and lost Comic-Con. Major impact locally here. And then GBTA, he goes on to say GBTA. I don't know if he's saying that conference is gone also. Those are obviously some big conferences. Michael Bilodeau says companies were somewhat reluctant to go virtual prior to COVID. Now, seeing that productivity can remain constant, there is more openness to the virtual environment. I believe we will see a large incline of COVID time virtual work going forward. We as an organization have been completely virtual for 8 years, and it's wonderful. Okay, my BS meter is going off a little bit. Here's what I say. Anybody that tells me that productivity has remained constant,
totally,
I think it's full of shit. Now, work's gone down. So productivity, so my efficiency has remained constant perhaps. But if you tell me I go into June, July in the household goods season and I'm working from home with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old boy beating the hell out of each other through one pane of glass right here, I'm going to tell you that's going to be hard to do. Just saying. So I think as we work from home, now we're finding out what the gaps are. We're like, okay, I need a private space. I probably need some soundproofing. I probably need a better internet connection. I probably need a little more of a processor on the old laptop here. I need some good lighting and some good mic, and I need this and that. I need a fax machine and a scanner and a whatever over here that we're still using nowadays. But I think we're understanding what the gaps are, and I think we can solve for those gaps. But I think as we stand today, there are still gaps. As we can tell right now, I'm doing a show with you and I've cut out twice. So I mean, we're not perfect yet.
Well,
John, what do you think?
Well, I think like I learned in graduate school, there's big lies, little lies, and statistics. And productivity is really, really difficult because I know for sure working from home, I'm doing 11-hour days just because and I don't know how productive that makes me as an individual, whether I'm delivering, the productivity that my company needs for me to do the job. I believe at the end of the day that America is the most innovative country on the planet. We innovated a political system that I hope and pray holds up with all the stresses that are on it. I think it will. I think our founders were beyond their genius to build stopgaps and firewalls and layers and stuff. And I think the same thing's going to happen here. We can joke around and be cute about American ingenuity, but we've done it a bunch of times. And I think this is going to be similar. And where we end up, that's going to determine how the quote unquote productivity factor. I've got a graduate degree in organizational leadership and design. And I know a thing or two about highly functional work teams. And being remote is not necessarily one of them, kids. That interaction that you get from somebody calling BS down the hall, or from a lunchtime conversation, or from an accidental bouncing into the CEO in the parking lot when you're trying to get through to her. And you say, I'm like 8 layers deep on your priority list. Would you push me up? You can't do that on a virtual thing.
John, you bring up a great point. I want to just riff on that for a second, okay? It's those accidental interactions and collaborations that are going to be so hard to replicate and fill for, right? And that's where growth comes from. That's where innovation comes from too. The first big break I got in my career, I'm going to tell a story very quickly. The first big break, I was working the call center at Pods. I was wearing a headset every day like this, okay? All right, I was making $11 an hour or whatever I was making, right? I was in the boiler room, right? And the vice president came for a quarterly State of the Union or whatever, right? And I caught her outside smoking a cigarette, and I bent her ear for 10 minutes, and I said, hey, I got 3 ideas how we can boost productivity and just blow the doors off conversion and all this stuff. And I basically got her for 10 minutes because she was smoking a cigarette outside. And I would never have that chance encounter, that run-in. The next day she said, hey, can you come back and put this in a report for me? I said, yeah. I came back in on a Saturday on my day off. I presented it to her again, like over a cigarette. And I got promoted a month later and moved to Clearwater, Florida. And that thus got me out of the rat race and into management. And that
started smoking Marlboro Lights at that point, right?
I was smoking whatever she smoked. Yeah, I think I bummed one from her. I don't even remember. But I mean, the point is, how do you replicate those types of chance encounters, and how does one's career improve? I mean, I had Nitesh from Six Walls on, and he tells a story about how he saw at Oracle. He's in Boston, but his counterparts who were in the Bay Area in San Francisco were progressing and getting promoted at a far more rapid rate because they were on site. And he thought about moving, couldn't afford it, and thus created Six Walls out of that experience. But the point being is he recognized he was missing out on opportunity because he was not on site. And I think that is going to be the hidden thing that we're seeing, and people are going to start craving that opportunity again because they don't, it's great to work from home. If your family is that, is important, and spending family time and being present and all that stuff, and having a big yard and a barn out back because you live in the country and all that's important to you, that's awesome. But if you are on one of the bottom rungs of the corporate ladder and you aspire one day to be at the top of that ladder, you're going to realize that you have to go to headquarters and you have to be present. That's my opinion.
Or the modern day equivalent of what headquarters is. And
right.
So there's a great old Harvard Business Review case study written by a guy named Ted Levitt, Leavitt, and it's called Marketing Myopia. And it was all about the story in the 60s, how the railroads didn't realize what business they were in. Mm-hmm. And the same thing, if you meet somebody in an elevator and they say, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm in corporate relocation. Oh, you do office moves? You move furniture? Mm-hmm. What do you relocate? Well, guess what? We are in the people business. In the 1960s, when we got into this as an industry, it was about the people. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to 2020, we're still in the people business. And that requires a degree of interaction, and to your exact point, Ben, a level of complexity and randomness that's so beautiful and can't be recreated necessarily in an environment.
And this goes back to the conversation we had earlier, but that is a nuance that comes from experience. The babes in the woods don't necessarily appreciate that nuance. The startups who start up lean and start up remote, the people who are considering an office move and downsizing their office. Look at Yahoo. Yahoo, several years ago, the CEO, pulled everybody back in. IBM, I think, also pulled everybody back in. So these are companies that are forward thinking and tried it and then pulled everybody back in. My kids are screaming. I don't know if you can hear it, but anyway, they don't agree with me.
They want you out of here.
They're like, yeah, send Dad back to headquarters.
I think we're making the same point differently. I think, and Sylvia touched on it too. The new normal is, if it is, and maybe we should get rid of the word normal. I've been joking people lately that I'm getting rid of 2 words out of my vocabulary: crazy and unprecedented. Because how many times have we used those 2 words as English majors, in the last couple months? And the same goes for normal. I don't know, copacetic. What's the balance? What's the level?
Comfortable. When are we going to be comfortable again?
And safe. And
Safe.
yeah, and so I think for relocation, recognizing that we're in the people business and being able to offer a hybrid blend of in-person and technology assisted. Some of it could be AI. You know, there's great predictive. I work a lot in residential real estate. There's some really, really cool predictive analytics that are going on. Why can't that genius be applied to corporate relocation? And if you know the transferee's got 2 young kids and one of them has a medical need, just like the great relo counselors that used to do it back in the day, who had this little calculator, he says, okay, here, I got to get to them with an orthodontist that does this whole thing. We need predictive analytics to be able to bring those tools and resources to the transferees. Otherwise, we don't deserve their time.
That's right, and we do. We have to earn it, and that's another thing too. We have to make sure that we are actually bringing forth the best solutions in a timely manner. Because, yeah, I mean that's a whole other conversation. But we have to earn it. You're right. We 100% agree with you.
You know, you look at innovation like Shift and what they're doing. You know, to try to change the mix. Same goes for mortgage, like with Quicken Loans. Redfin with. I just sold one of my houses with Redfin. Saved a ton of money, and it was one of the best experiences in terms of rich content and stuff. And it was a blend of me seeing the agent. I saw her once. After that, it was a total virtual experience. And you saved like 20 grand in the brokerage commission on the listing agent side. And I couldn't be happier. That's what we need to get in our relocation world, ladies and gentlemen. If we're not there already, we got to build to that.
Interesting.
And add music to juice it up a little bit.
Well, and actually, we just got a request here from Jamie Masser. How about a COVID-19 blues song, John?
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I promise. I've sworn off of political Facebook posts because I've gotten my rear end bitten a couple times. So some of these other subjects. We are writing a song for Chris Como that's going to be coming out on my record label called American. It was about something that Chris riffed off on before he got the disease and ended up going down to his basement. I've got one of my Grammy-winning business partners has written a song, releasing it. So keep an eye out for that called American. My buddy Chris Aaron, who's on here from England, is our designer. It's going to be really cool, and hopefully Como's going to pick it up and broadcast it out on his show. We're doing it for a benefit for Gary Sinise. For his foundation, he has a first responder foundation. So instead of a COVID song, keep your eyes peeled and ears out on LinkedIn and Facebook for our song called American, because it's I'm going to release it next week.
And please also post it on the Facebook page as well. And for all of you who are watching out there, if you got anything cool, Relo related or just cool, put it on Facebook.com/LoveandRelo. It's an open forum; anybody can post. So love to have the song on there, John. Let's check on with a couple of people here as well. People are saying Lynn is great. Lynn Shotwell, super smart, connected. Let's see. Biz travel and redistributed work centers will flourish. But let's see. U.S. relocation will flourish with reshoring of manufacturing. Interesting.
That's a good one. We didn't hit on that. That's a 5-pointer. Whoever did that.
Yeah, that's Ed. And Ed goes on to say, and this is very interesting, inland California and Arkansas will likely become tax-free manufacturing centers. Get ready for the new relos.
Nashville's already ready. Amazon's bringing 5,000 jobs here. They got a big distribution warehouse. We've got Nissan and Volkswagen and Bridgestone. They're already here. No state income tax. Great weather. No legal.
You guys have no state income tax in Tennessee? No state income tax? Wow.
No, sir. Yeah,
that's great. I know Texas and Florida, where I live, there are both. Sylvia Ehrlich agree, Ben. Edward Cohen mentioned GBTA as a potential merger source. Sherm division is more likely. Ed Cohen goes on. Ed Cohen says top mobility administration mergers, admin mergers are perfectly situated to work across aisles of recruit and comp. Ben advise on global talent pipeline development and more. A lot of ideas there, Ed. Jack Jampel, although I definitely agree with all your challenges that you stated, many times business decisions are based on hard dollars and budgets and not on costs that are really not hard costs. Let's see what he says. He goes on to say, Jack goes on to say, that being said about my comment, I think eventually relocation will return once companies are back to normal, which may take a few quarters. Okay. Ed, Ed's appreciating the vision and guts to speak up. Loves the idea of marketing myopia. Michael Bilodeau, regarding my comment, evolving to a virtual environment does take work, but being a company that is 80% technology driven has worked well for us. Did we suffer a few setbacks initially? Yes, but after time you can mold the organization and gain greater productivity all in all. But this is a whole other conversation.
It comes down to teaching an old horse new tricks. We've got some artists on our record label that are in their 70s. And when I say to them, hey, we're gonna be doing a Facebook Live, we got to do these promoted posts, they're like, what the heck? My fans don't, and they're not gonna. And then other ones, I've got others that are in that age group, and they're like, yeah, I love it. I'm all over Periscope and blah blah blah, right? So it's about teaching an old dog new tricks, and if the Relo dog will be receptive, and like we've always done, we've always worked our way through. Hey, when I bought my first house, mortgage rates were 17%.
Oh my gosh.
It was a little $70,000 house in Mount Kisco, New York, and the mortgage payment was $1,200. And I was paying $300 a month rent in my house in White Plains in Bryant Gardens, Ben.
I know Bryant Gardens, sure.
And when we moved up to Mount Kisco, our first house, 17%. Well, how did the world work? We figured our way through it. We invented buy downs. And Ed Cohen is a professor of relocation policies who could teach us about how companies came in and said, hey, we're going to develop a policy to make this work. So we'll figure it out. Whether the numbers will be the same or whether it'll be normal, don't try to look backwards, just look forwards.
Lynn Greenberg says, send over that song when you have it. My cousin works for CNN. John, you may know Lynn, but did you know that she's from Mamaroneck?
No.
Lynn Greenberg from Mamaroneck, yep.
High school, Lynn?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did go to Mamaroneck High School.
Can I ask her when she graduated? Put the number up on the screen because I'm on the screen. Have her say it confidentially.
Yeah, it's probably. Yeah.
Mine looks like 72 was my graduation.
Yeah, I think you got a few years on her.
Freaking president.
That's a lot of math, John. I don't got that kind of time.
We lived through Nixon too, so don't worry.
Let's see here. Sylvia goes on to say adaptability, nimble. And Wieba Van Bakel, who was on yesterday, AI will drive a lot of change in customer life journey. The question will be what the right mix is with people.
Sure. Well, we're in the people business, and this is the most emotionally, one of the top 3 stresses. That hasn't changed. And, there are a lot of 14-year-olds who have a lot to say at the kitchen table about the family's policy that when I was moving my kids, they didn't have a chance to speak up. Today, you got a 12 or 14-year-old who's saying, hey, Dad, I'm on a track to be valedictorian in my class here at Sandy Hook High School in Connecticut, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying put. You can go to San Diego, and I'm staying put. How do you figure that, empowered teenagers through this world?
Or they're playing a varsity sport, or they got a boyfriend, or whatever, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and now I think we're listening to those voices a lot more than we were listening to them before.
Well, generationally, sure. On my parents' generation, nothing. You just did as you were told. It was a military thing. Then, baby boomers got in. Now it's the subsequent generation that's parenting.
Well, you bring up a great point and I had Lauren Herring from Impact Group on here, and they do spousal.
I know her mom better. The mom is the one I really like. But.
Yeah, Lauren's really second fiddle. And, Laura.
Yeah, she's awesome.
No, I'm totally kidding. Love her. And by the way, congratulations on the baby. Sorry. She just had a baby. But
cool.
But I was asking her when she was on here about, there's spousal assistance and there's spousal counseling and there's getting the spouse there mentally, and financially, making them whole. But do we do any counseling with the children? And that had not been something that was on her radar yet. But you're right, kids have more of a seat at the table nowadays. My kid's got a data plan. My kid's got an iPad. Sure. And, he said, Mom, where's the phone? Maybe that makes me a bad parent. I don't know. But that's the reality of what it is today. So we need to be thinking about this. If we're going to get families to relocate, we need to understand who the stakeholders are here,
It's a people business, kids. It's a
That's
people
right.
care. It's a people business, folks.
Lynn disclosed that she did graduate from American High School. She was class of 2010.
Oh, geez. Oh, my heavens.
Yep. Yeah,
I was a couple years before you. Same building, though.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, that's great. And this is so cool too, because you're talking about Merrill Lynch relocation, and you're talking about all this kind of like basically kind of being at the forefront of outsourcing and offers through the mail and all that stuff. And I think that's so cool to look at the arc, and I'm a big fan of talking to people that have done it before and kind of understanding where we've come from as an industry and
Right.
how it's grown. I think if you want to know what the future is, you look at the past and you see the arc, right? And you can see what's going to happen. And so John, I thank you so much for making time today to come on and share these insights.
Great, Ben. Thank you.
This
And
is
Janet,
fantastic.
you too. You guys are great. Keep the faith, everybody. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which gives you a very wide range of things to choose from.
John, before we let you go, I always love to let people just have a moment and have the floor and say, was there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Is this me or other people?
No, this is you, John. John.
Well, I'll repeat some of what I said, and then I'll kind of go forward. Relocation business has been phenomenal for me personally and professionally. Not only did it support my family, put my kids through school, I've got some friendships that are literally 40 years old in this business, some of which are on this call, and everybody feels that way. So I think it's a little corny to say we'll get through this together, because a lot of people are throwing that out. But I've seen it in relocation before, where as an industry we've gotten together, we've reconfigured, and we've recalibrated ourselves for what the new business environment is. And I'm very, very confident that you're it out. So I love you guys. And all my good friends, I hope to see everybody in DC on October 29th for a kick-ass party. And just be careful out there. Be safe.
Yeah. And I'd echo that as well. Be careful, be safe, and make sure to always continue to love one another out there. Thank you all for joining in today. This program wouldn't be possible without the community of folks that chime in and watch it and like it and comment. So please go ahead and subscribe. Continue chime in. Love to hear all your voices and see you pop up in the feed. And thank you so much, John, again for.
Thank you, Ben. You rock, man. I have a new friend. I can't wait to see you in person.
Isn't this great? We're like buds now. Like, this is cool.
Totally. Be safe, everybody.